You'll be moving to our branch office starting tomorrow. Is this a demotion? No, the branch just needs more hands. Having a transfer so quickly is odd. Just yesterday, did someone in a position of authority say anything? The boss's expression tightened as he applied more pressure. Jason, you should be grateful it's just a demotion and not something worse. I argued, I haven't done anything wrong. The manager simply placed his hands on his head, clearly frustrated. Yes, you haven't done anything improper, but occasionally the circumstances and the parties involved are simply too complex. Not all that seems right always is. You ought to be aware of that if you work in the business sector. I have no desire to comprehend that, I said without thinking. The manager sighed heavily. I may not agree with what you're saying, but I'll accept the decision quietly. The decision to demote someone was made in an instant. My supervisor said that I was demoted because I was unable to assess people and circumstances, but I didn't see it that way. The event was only yesterday. While I was passing through the train station, I saw an elderly man purposefully bumping into women. He fits the description of a bump into guy. Why was that guy intentionally doing it? That's risky. Observing ladies stumble and fall due to him was more than unsettling. The old man seemed to detect something as I was going to approach him, and he hurriedly vanished into the crowd. There was an unusual tension in the air when I arrived at the office, still irritated. Some bigwig was rumored to be stopping by the office for an inspection. As if incentives and evaluations depended on the outcome of the inspection, which is why the supervisors were rushing around, making sure everything was in working order. That bigwig turned out to be none other than the elderly station employee. That's the man that was stirring up trouble, right? It can't be true, I reasoned. Upon seeing that haughty CEO, I was reminded of my irritation from earlier in the morning, and without even thinking, I approached him. Excuse me, I have a question. He said, what is it? Back. Why did you keep bumping into women at the station this morning? The executive's expression clearly stiffened. This morning, I saw you. It was deliberate for you to walk into them. A few even lost their balance. Did you know? What did you intend to accomplish? Were you annoyed by them, or did you want to touch them? Attacking defenseless women is bad in any case. How do you feel about that? The executive was stunned by the volume of enquiries and was unable to say much more than open and close his mouth. Hey, Jason. When the boss saw this, he quickly spoke out. The executive's face continued to flush. Are you in charge here? Let us discuss in private. Yes, the boss said, his expression as ferocious as a thunderstorm. Instead of answering my accusations, the executive led the boss into a meeting room. And I was demoted today as a result. My employer was inconsolable, and the big shots were furious, but I still think I said nothing improper. There have been a few previous incidents similar to this one. It's acceptable to call attention to bad behavior, regardless of the status or position of the person making the statement. Sometimes my close friends who know me well would warn me when anything like this happened. But in my opinion, telling the truth is always the best course of action. I'm grateful for my friends that support and encourage me no matter what problems I run into, but I was unable to pay attention to their advice. I used to get reprimanded for lying to my parents and instructors when I was younger. I'm an adult now, and being honest gets me in trouble. It does not seem fair, does it? The entire crew at my new workplace, the sales office, gave me a hearty welcome. The office was located in a secluded rural community, so much so that people used to call it the outpost of real backwater. There was only the manager, a salesman named Peter, and an administrative assistant named Emily. Although not many consumers were coming in, they had enough workers to meet their needs. There's no way I'm going to be able to perform better here, and they even reduced my compensation by cutting my allowances. It seemed like a standard downsizing. Hopefully, we can collaborate successfully. This place seems to be quite relaxed, I added extending my greetings to the trio. Everyone appeared briefly stunned. You certainly are direct. Jason, let's stay occupied together. That sounds good. Well, yes, indeed. In that vein, let's all try our hardest. Peter may have had the playboy appearance, but the manager came across as a cheerful old man. Jason, I'll usher you to your desk. With a cane in her left hand, Emily got to her feet after exchanging greetings. Wait, why the cane? I inquired. Emily gave me a tapping motion with her right leg. A few years ago, I was in a serious accident. Since then, I've needed this. She moved across the office with grace, guiding herself with her cane. It's your desk, please. That's where the bathrooms are. It was fascinating to watch her move between bookcases and desks with such ease. She appeared to get self-conscious as I kept staring, attempting to cover up her cane. Please avoid staring. I am aware of my oddities. No, you weren't strange to me. I was simply amazed at how skillfully you use the cane. It's quite cool. Cool. I'm not too graceful, so I doubt I could walk with it. It seems like you practiced a lot. To be honest, I respect you. It's good to hear, even if you're just being courteous. With all sincerity, thank you. Emily had a smile that could light up a flower in full bloom. A few weeks later, Peter started teaching me the ropes. It was evident from watching him work that he was no wimp. He appeared to be pretty capable, in fact, so I'm not sure why he was assigned here in the first place. With a tug at his light brown hair, Peter admitted, I don't really get along with high-ups. His ears, which have several piercings, are visible behind his hair, which is a little long at the nape. Well, as long as one isn't disheveled, appearance shouldn't really matter. True, people in positions of authority frequently disapprove of these expressions. I get that. That's not fair, Jason. I made a comment, but Peter laughed happily anyhow. But I'm fine here. It's enjoyable working with them, and everyone is pleasant. The people here, in my opinion, are definitely more grounded than those at the main office. They may be a little unambitious, though. True. After being transferred here a few weeks ago, I've been thinking about something. It concerns this man, Peter, and a woman, Emily. Despite their claims to be only coworkers, it's obvious they have diverse perspectives on one another. It's evident from simply observing. Even the manager has probably noticed. They just need to let each other know whether they have feelings for one another. What's causing them to hesitate, I wonder? I asked Peter how he felt about Emily, and he gave me an uncomfortable look and knitted his brows. She is usually a huge assistance. She is a decent person and sincere. How about on a romantic level? Are you fond of her? I'd like to approach her, but I'm not sure how. Somehow I feel bad. Why does that happen? It's beyond me. What is the source of your guilt? Due to her leg problem. Being able to walk normally makes me feel horrible. For some reason, Emily appears to be feeling a little uncomfortable too, but I completely missed what Peter was saying. I enjoy this branch in spite of all that. Despite the fact that I was kind of demoted and moved, I have no plans to return to the main office. I would actually want to see this area flourish even more. The people are competent in addition to being pleasant. So, I partnered up with Peter and we gave it our all, making the most of my sales expertise and the relationships I've developed over the years. Even though there were moments when it felt impossible, we persisted in trying. It appeared that our efforts were finally going to be rewarded. We were about to seal a big contract. The prospective client's vice president and CEO were in town for a meeting at our office. Although Emily and the manager were observing covertly from a distance and were a little anxious, everything were going well thus far. For now, let's call it a day. How about dinner, given our prospective long-term relationship? As the discussion drew to an end, the client presented this proposition, and Peter and I looked at each other. It sounds fantastic. I'm aware of an excellent diner. looking forward to it. Peter and I had previously had dinner at this restaurant. Everything about the meal, the atmosphere, and the hostess' demeanor was excellent. Upon expressing my liking for this diner, Peter answered, "If you say so, the diner is guaranteed by now." He reads my character rather well. As a group of 4, we left the workplace and went to the diner. The vice president and CEO appeared to be in good spirits after having few drinks, and the talks went just as easily as they had throughout the meeting. I believe we've handled everything flawlessly thus far. We have a good chance of closing this agreement. Now all we have to do is end the evening without any problems. That is when it took place. But isn't there an issue with your secretary? Everything had been going well until that one comment, which stopped both Peter and myself cold. Still, the CEO continued in the same cordial manner. "She may be cute in certain ways right now, but that's only because she's young. Women grow old rapidly and become ordinary old ladies. Not only is it unattractive, but one-leg infirmity must be a burden. You would think they would hire another female employee to add some color to the office if she was the only one." The vice president gave a nod of approval. "Yeah, I was taken aback when she walked in with that cane. When I heard them laugh mockingly, I really lost all patience." Peter got up before me, as if he knew I was about to. "You sure had a lot to say, thinking we'd just sit and listen, haven't you?" His voice resounded throughout the room, deep and full of cold rage. It's amazing to think that Peter, who always has such a silly smile, is the source of such intensity. The vice president and the CEO are both gaping in disbelief. "You're implying that our secretary is ineffective. You must be joking with me. She's far more admirable than idiots like you who denigrate other people because they look down on women or are somewhat different. She never says cruel things to others without being aware of their challenges. You old fools, you are a shame." It's probably not how he usually speaks up. He appeared to be out of breath after reading it all at once. Breathing deeply, Peter glared at the vice president and CEO. Naturally, I did not stop him. "What has become of you?" It's unkind to the coworker. It was so funny to watch Peter change all of a sudden, and the vice president stutter in shock, that I nearly started laughing. You don't have the right to treat someone from a different company poorly just because it's a social gathering. You guys are the ones who are disrespectful here, if anything. What did you say? Peter was not the only one who joined in, challenging them both and turning them both red with rage. Why are these guys acting this way? I'm done. Come on, let's go. Yes, sir. Their footsteps echoed as they stormed out of the restaurant, fuming. The private dining area was silent as soon as the sliding door closed behind them. Peter sighed deeply and sank into his chair. Oh no, that was a bad idea, especially in the middle of a business meeting. I was informed by the manager that he is supporting me. He must have been afraid after realizing how serious the situation was. I gave him my phone in a low voice after noticing how miserable he looked. Our branch office was contacted during the conversation. Jason, what is happening? Simply have a conversation with them. Peter timidly placed the phone to his ear. Hello. You did great, Peter. The manager's voice was crystal clear and audible from the other end. I gave Peter a comforting shoulder pat when I noticed his perplexed expression. Since they first started insulting me, I've actually remained on the queue the entire time. I instantly felt that kind of person was beyond our ability to handle. To make sure they weren't lying, I answered the phone so the manager could hear them. So he heard everything I said? Peter, I heard you completely. You made the correct decision. Well done. Excitedly, the manager's voice sounded out. You're correct, Peter. Many thanks for that. I'm ecstatic, Emily. Peter's eyes lit up as soon as he heard Emily's voice, which was just as happy as the manager's. I could still hear compliments for Peter and myself at the other end of the phone. I gave Peter a fist bump while he was attempting to reply while trying not to cry. He gave it back giving me a triumphant fist bump. With a client like that, problems would have most likely arisen eventually. It's fortunate that we learnt about them quickly. But if you could get a comparable deal shortly, it would be extremely appreciated. Maintain your good work, the manager stated in a tone that was characteristically casual for him to provide such a high directive. Though sales are still difficult and the deal fell through, there was one bright spot. Peter and Emily began dating. It appears that after they made a stand that day, the dust settled between them. The best policy is, in fact, to be honest. Jason, I appreciate you picking up the phone back then. You made it possible for us both to go forward. Emily was beaming and looked beautiful as ever. Congratulations, you make a great couple. I'm grateful. I won't break my heart, so don't worry. Yes, but hold on. What? I apologize, Peter, but you will have to overlook such a remark. I simply can't keep secrets. It's time to move on and possibly look for love again. My name is William. I'm a salesman at a company that's deeply rooted in the local community. I'll be turning 28 this year, but I didn't grow up here. Right after high school, I left my hometown and headed straight to this city. I'm incredibly grateful to my boss for hiring a high school graduate like me and helping me grow into the person I am today. Back in the day, I had quite the reputation as a troublemaker in my hometown. I was a wild child, into motorcycles, and pretty good in a fight because I hated losing. My antics caused plenty of headaches for my parents and teachers. But now I'm reformed and a respectable member of society. I don't visit my hometown often, but when I do reach out, I can tell my parents are relieved. I've even started sending them a little money now and then. One day, after returning from a client's place, I got a call from my boss. He had been waiting for me. When I arrived at his office, the white-haired man greeted me with a smile. I apologized for keeping him waiting, but he waved it off. This boss of mine is a good guy, well known in town for his community involvement. He took me under his wing like I was his own son. He motioned for me to sit on the guest sofa and then said, "Sorry for the suddenness, but Robert, what do you think about matchmaking?" I was caught off guard. My social life lacks a feminine touch, but it's not like I can't attract women. I just haven't felt like dating because I'm still getting my life back on track. But this wasn't just about dating, it was about marriage. And coming from my boss, my benefactor, I felt anxious. He continued, "She's the daughter of the owner of Harris Enterprises. You've seen her at Chamber of Commerce parties, right?" I had seen her before. She was well known, not for her looks, but for never smiling. People called her a cool beauty, but she had zero sociability. Her beautiful eyes and well-proportioned face stood out even at those parties. The boss said the president of Harris Enterprises wanted to introduce her to a good young man, and my face came to mind. He handed me her marriage interview photo with a smile. The girl in the photo was definitely pretty but seemed unsociable. I had my own ideals. A cute, homely girl who eats well. This girl looked like she might be eating mist or something. I tried to decline politely, but the boss wasn't having it. "Are you saying my eyes are clouded? There's no one more suitable than you," he insisted. In the end, I agreed to the marriage interview, feeling a pit in my stomach. The date was set, and the boss even gave me money for a new suit. I reluctantly bought one, not wanting to ruin his reputation. On the day of the interview, I entered a high-class restaurant in my brand new suit, feeling a sharp pain in my stomach. I hadn't told my parents about the marriage interview because I planned to decline. Somehow, the boss was sitting with me as a substitute for my parents. After a while of sitting, the landlady of the restaurant showed up, and with the announcement, "Your party has arrived," the face of Harris Enterprises' boss appeared. Behind the president, his daughter in a formal dress followed. Seeing her up close, she had skin like porcelain and a beauty that was somehow out of this world. I was taken aback. "Sorry to keep you waiting. This is my daughter." Her name is Nora. President Harris introduced her. She slightly retracted her chin and nodded to me. Of course, there was no smile on her face. Rather, I was startled by the sharpness of her gaze when she quietly looked at me. In the end, the marriage interview was just the bosses talking while we focused on eating. It was a very uncomfortable space. The meal was finally over with the dessert, and the two bosses left the table together, saying, "Now it's up to the young people." It's a common sight at marriage interviews. As soon as the two of them left, the girl who had been silent until now opened her mouth. "Do you want to get married?" Her sudden aggressiveness made me momentarily angry. Ugh, who talks like that? Always take the fight if it's offered to you. That's how I've lived thus far. If someone was spoiling for a fight, I wouldn't back down either. Her icy gaze stabbed at me, clearly pissed off at my attitude. The marriage interview was your parents' idea, wasn't it? You could have put it more tactfully. You have been staying silent throughout the meeting. Are you trying to embarrass my boss? Think about it. Once I start talking, it's hard to stop. I expressed my distaste for her attitude. Acting high and mighty, who do you think you are living a life that gives you the right to lecture others? We both seemed to have confrontational personalities. After a huge argument that caused the landlady to intervene, the marriage interview ended. I figured she would be the one to reject me. Even so, she was a strong-willed president's daughter. I went back to my apartment and thought about her. I was mad, but there was a part of me that couldn't hate her, leaving me feeling unsettled. Days passed since the marriage interview, and I hadn't received any rejection. Instead, I was called into the boss's office during my lunch break to be told that there was a date invitation from her. I was genuinely shocked and taken aback. After such a huge fight, her not rejecting me was surprising. It could be some kind of prank. I left the boss's office feeling like I'd been had. In my hand was a note with the date and time of the next meeting. I needed a drink to deal with this. As soon as I got back to the office, I asked a colleague to join me for drinks that night. That evening, after getting the news about the date from the boss, I went out drinking with my colleagues at a bar. The story of the marriage interview had apparently become office gossip, and my colleagues seemed genuinely interested. I amusingly shared with them how I had a major fight with the president's daughter at the marriage interview. My colleagues jokingly warned me, "You're going to get fired," and I felt a chill thinking it might not be that far-fetched. To shake off that anxiety, I got seriously drunk, which was something I hadn't done in a long time. A junior female colleague was doing her best to support my drunken self as we staggered towards the subway station. I spotted Nora Harris in the crowd. Our eyes locked instantly. Then, expressionlessly, she flashed me the middle finger. In response to her blatant provocation, my drunken head heated up. I was pulled along by my junior female colleague as I wobbled. Even as I was being led, I couldn't take my eyes off Nora. Noticing my gaze, Nora nonchalantly lifted her skirt to flash her pure white panties at me. I was captivated by their whiteness. Just as I heard, "Watch out, you're going to hurt yourself," I crashed into a corner wall. I saw stars as I banged my head on the wall. Ouch. I crumpled over, clutching my throbbing head that I had hit hard. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Nora grinning wickedly. What the hell? I couldn't help but grumble to myself. She could smile after all. However, strangely, I didn't feel angry. I found myself starting to enjoy Nora's audacious personality. The date that I was dreading somehow became something I was looking forward to. On the day of our date, I still had a bandage plastered on my forehead. Despite this, Nora's expression didn't change at all. As soon as we sat down side by side on a park bench, Nora repeated the words she had said during our initial meeting. "Do you actually want to get married?" Hearing the same phrase again, I felt there was a catch to this matchmaking. I thought that she might have a compelling reason to get married. If there's a reason I can help, would you mind sharing it with me honestly? She looked at me, eyes wide with surprise. From my serious expression, she understood I wasn't joking. After a deep breath, she began to speak. This marriage interview, it seems, was something she had requested from her father. Apparently, she wanted to prove herself to him. She had been in a long-term relationship with her first love, but had been betrayed by him and her best friend. Betrayed by her boyfriend and her best friend, the deeply wounded Nora wanted to get married to show them up. She wanted to show them that she didn't need them. That was the reason why she was rushing into this matchmaking. Her story left me a bit flabbergasted, but I also felt sympathy for her. Being betrayed by people she trusted and being left alone suddenly is hard. I am a daughter of a president, so it would be like you're marrying up, right? I'll also treat your parents well. If you want, we can even divorce when it suits you. Her face was dead serious as she desperately tried to persuade me. I guess she's this desperate because she still can't forget her first love. Suddenly, I found myself feeling a strange affection for her. So much for her cool beauty persona. Isn't she just a girl who can't forget her first love? I wouldn't mind going out of my way for her. After hearing her whole story, I found myself thinking like that. All right, I'll do it. Let's get married. At my response, her face lit up. Thank you, she said. A faint smile played on her lips as she held back her tears. The disbalance in her expression was so beautiful that I found myself at a loss for words. It just hit me how sudden moments that capture your heart can be. The talk of marriage moved ahead swiftly. After all, Nora wanted to get married as soon as possible. When I reported my plans to marry to the boss, he was happier than when his own son got married. I want to pay a visit to your parents, she said when I was about to start looking for a wedding venue. Nora said so with a serious face. I hadn't been back to my hometown or my parents' house in a long time. For me, my hometown was a place I had essentially abandoned. Only embarrassing memories remained. I was a little afraid to take her back to such a place. I didn't want to deliberately show her parts of myself that I disliked. But she said it's a necessary step and wouldn't take no for an answer. In a way, she almost forcefully decided on my return home. When we actually got there, I was surprised to find everything looking so familiar. The family home I so disliked returning to now felt incredibly nostalgic. Seeing my parents again after a long time, they had aged more than I imagined and looked noticeably smaller. My mom teared up at the sight of me, and when I introduced Nora as my future wife, she sobbed. She was overwhelmed with joy. My silent dad also seemed happy about my return, albeit in his own quiet way. After the greeting with my parents, I took her to something she had insisted on seeing during our visit. I led her behind the family's barn. There, her eyes lit up, and she exclaimed, "This is amazing." My motorcycle was just left out there next to the barn. Surprisingly, she loves motorcycles and has a license for large ones. She'd heard about me riding a motorcycle in my student days and had asked to see it. It's not a big one, but it's a bike I cherish. She stared at it for a while and then said, "Thank you." After that, I decided to show Nora around the neighborhood. "So this is where you grew up," she said, looking down on the river from the embankment with deep emotion. Compared to the city where she grew up, this must have seemed like a peaceful countryside. Everything might be new to her. After deciding to get married and meeting a few times, Nora's expression gradually softened. She would even flash a small smile at me. If we build a home together, will she smile more? As I thought about creating a warm home, I felt a bit foolish. She's marrying me not because she loves me, I remembered. But I guess it's okay because I'm in love with her. "Hey, is that you, Robert?" A hoarse voice called out to me, probably from too much drink. Turning around, I saw an old friend from my rebellious days, Steve, looking at me with a surprised expression. On either side of Steve Young, punks still in their prime were standing by. It seems Steve couldn't manage to reform himself after all. "Yes, but who are you again?" I replied. The heat in the room instantly surged. I figured he was a mate from my reckless past, but his features had changed so much I couldn't recognize him. The signs of a rough life were etched onto his face. "You think you can just waltz back here after all this time, acting high and mighty like the old days?" He glared and threatened me, but I wasn't scared in the slightest. My only worry was whether my girlfriend, who was with me, would be in any harm. As we locked eyes, Nora peeked her head out between us. "So it's true. You were a badass," she said, starting to laugh, clutching her stomach. Seeing her laugh so freely, both Steve and I were taken aback, losing momentum. "Who's this you're with?" "She's the woman I'm going to marry." "I see." Just like that, a peaceful expression fell over Steve's face as he looked at Nora. "It seems like your life has been moving on just fine." Hearing that, I remembered clearly who this guy was. The moment I realized, I froze on the spot. He was my ex-girlfriend's brother. I wanted to say something, but the words stuck in my throat, and I couldn't get anything out. While I was frozen in place, he gave Nora a gentle pat on the shoulder and smiled. "Be happy with Robert. I had a sister too. She's not in this world anymore, but do it for her sake as well." Leaving those words behind, he started to walk towards his car parked under the Livy. The way he slouched slightly as he walked looked like a testament to the past he was carrying. As I stood there in a daze, Nora took my arm and smiled. "Should we go visit your ex-girlfriend and your buddy?" At her words, I shuddered. I wondered how she knew. My mind spinning, I left my hometown because of a motorcycle accident. I loved motorcycles since my rebellious days, and in my youthful folly, I thought reckless riding was cool. Back then, my girlfriend was a year younger, and she often rode behind me on my motorcycle. The night of the accident, I was at the police station because of a fight I got into during the day, along with my parents and my school teacher. When she heard I was taken to the station, she panicked. She was riding on the back of my boy's bike to come pick me up from the station when the accident happened. It wasn't because they were riding recklessly. The driver of the compact car that hit their motorcycle was an unlicensed high schooler. He was a kid just like us, up to no good, and apparently he fled the scene without even calling an ambulance. When I was finally released from the police station, I remember being punched out of the blue by her brother at the entrance. When I finally saw her and my buddy in the cold morgue, I couldn't even cry. I was left in a state of utter disbelief, emotionless, unable to do anything but gaze at the two of them. Afterward, as soon as I graduated, I left my hometown. I left everything behind, including my home, to start afresh. To my surprise, Nora seemed to know all about this. "My dad would have definitely looked into my potential match," she said with a hint of regret. It made me wonder, knowing all that, why she would agree to this matchmaking. Knowing my past, how did this match even happen? By all accounts, I was a nuisance, wasn't I? Did her father not consider the harm it could do to his daughter? Times change. "My dad understands that, and so do I," she retorted, sounding a bit upset. I scratched my head, realizing the depth of Nora's father's understanding. Perhaps being raised by such a parent is what made Nora as compassionate as she is. When I met her and his best friend for the first time, I visited the graves of my ex-girlfriend and best friend. Nora stood next to me, her hands folded in silent prayer. When I asked her what she'd been talking about, she said, "I was informing them about our marriage." With a chuckle, I declared that I was taking Robert. With a serious face, Nora walked ahead, leaving me stunned. She turned back and reached out to me. I took her hand. We held hands for the first time. Her hand was slightly sweaty, perhaps from the nervousness. Her face was calm as always. When I gently swung our hands, she looked down and gave a small, shy smile. Her shy smile was endearing. I wished she could open up to me sooner, and so we walked hand in hand down the Sunset Road, lost in thought. 6 months after greeting my parents, we were finally on the eve of our wedding. Nora was still a grad student and surprisingly busier than I was with my job. You're free to do what you want on your last night as a bachelor, you know. Nora told me at the cafe we were meeting at. My coworkers had invited me for drinks, but I wasn't particularly excited about my last bachelor's night. I was a little worried that Nora might get cold feet at the last moment. Nora, unaware of my feelings, seemed slightly upset. I think she feels guilty for pushing me into this marriage. How awful. Nora's face fell as she raised her voice. Do you know them? It's my ex, Tom. As I turned to the entrance, I saw a man in a suit and a trendy-looking girl entering the cafe. When the man spotted Nora, a distasteful grin spread across his face. He walked straight over to our table. Long time no see. So you're getting married, huh? He talked as if we were close, but his eyes weren't smiling. He was a good-looking guy, but there was a hint of danger about him. Tomorrow is our wedding. It's a small ceremony for my family only. This is Robert. He's going to be my husband. Nora introduced. I gave a slight bow and muttered a quick hi. The man looked down at me as though I was something disgusting. The girl with him looked anxious. So you're being shipped off to a husband so soon? Is this an arranged marriage or just a move to get back at me? Pathetic. Despite his provocative words, her expression remained unchanged. She cast her eyes down, seemingly ignoring the man's harsh words. Even if Nora could shrug it off, I couldn't. I glared at the man from my seat. My attitude seemed to make him falter slightly. I don't know where he comes from, but I'm not about to be bested by some man who's probably never thrown a punch in his life. Are you trying to pick a fight with my wife or with me? I don't back down from a fight, you know. What are you going to do? So what if it's an arranged marriage? Nora is the woman I chose. She's too good for you. When I growled back, Tom's face went pale. Layla, who fell in love with Tom, pulled the man's sleeve and said in a low voice, "Stop it." Really? You're going to marry this uncouth man? Don't expect to be happy. Tom spat out a petty parting shot, then hurried out of the cafe as though he was fleeing. Nora watched him go, her face stunned. Then she turned to look at me intently. I felt strangely uncomfortable under her gaze. Unable to endure Nora's scrutiny, I turned away. Ignoring my discomfort, she placed her hands on my cheeks and turned my face towards her. Do you love me? She looked deeply into my eyes and quietly asked the question. Caught off guard, I started to panic. My body temperature rose dramatically. At the same time, an irrational anger welled up in me. What a clueless woman. My words slipped out in embarrassed frustration. She frowned and gave my cheek a firm pinch. Ouch. Ouch. Stop it. I just like you. Okay. I never said you had to like me back. The pinching fingers finally released me, but my moment of relief was short-lived as she swiftly slapped both her hands on my cheeks. Why do I have to endure this? I glared at Nora, my eyes watering from the pain in my cheeks. How clueless can you be, you thick-headed man? Surprised by her sudden confession, I pinched my own cheek. I wanted to make sure I wasn't dreaming. My cheek did hurt, and she was standing in front of me looking angry. She seemed to be on the verge of tears. Making the bride cry the day before the wedding was unforgivable. I'm sorry. I apologize. I realized that I was the clueless one. She had been giving me signals all this time, and I had missed them. Nora stood there, her face pouting. Tomorrow, she would be standing next to me in a pure white wedding dress. I was glad I could confirm her feelings the day before our wedding. We might have our fair share of arguments, but we'd be a happy couple indeed. Nora and I were a perfect match.